Hi everybody! Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Ranting and Raving. I hope you all are doing well. Yeah, I hope things are good for you. Things are doing good for me. There isn't going to be a What I Whittled This Week segment, or What I Whittled Since We Last Met segment. I already forgot the new title that we had given it last video, whatever it was. There's not going to be one of those, because I didn't whittle anything. I guess I could show you the dress I made. I'll do that. I'll show you the dress I made. Give me 1 second. Here it is. So it's this. It's a patchwork dress. It goes really, really low. I sewed on all those buttons and the buttonholes myself. This is the top. The patchworkness, I did that myself. It took me a very long time. I'm just going to put it on the floor right there. I gathered pretty much every piece of scrap fabric. Obviously not tiny scraps, but down to pretty small scraps that I had, that my sister had, and my mom had, and I sewed them all together. It took me weeks, actually weeks, and I ended up with 6 panels. Ended up with, I think, 6 massive panels of fabric, and I only used one of them to make that dress. I have 5 more. What am I going to do with it? I don't know. But in case you didn't notice, this is that dress that I made last time. Remember? Do you guys remember her? There it is. I paired it with this little bralette thing. I think it's cute. It's comfy. It's a little cold by my open window, so I might put a sweater on. We'll see. We'll see how today goes. Mostly I haven't been whittling or doing a lot of sewing because I've moved into this new room. Scene change, as you can see, scene change. Sorry, my cat's trying to come up here. I won't let him, don't worry. I've moved into my brother's room, and so now I have all this space. Anyway, so there's none of that segment this week. Sorry, guys. That was the whole things I made this week segment. I hope you're not mad at me. Today, we have a topic that, oh my gosh, I found him. There's my cat. Okay, give me a second. I have to get him off. Today we are going to talk about something that is always on my mind, always on my heart. And you'll see what I mean, to what extent I mean this genuinely. And this is this idea of humanity. Have you ever heard of her? Just the idea of all the people who have come before us and thinking about them and remembering them, and just memory and humanity. I don't even know what I'm going to call this because I don't really know how to articulate exactly what we're doing here today, but we're going to have a good time. And I guess I don't really have much of an introduction. I'll just dive right into it. And that's this. Yesterday I watched Kane Parsons' The Oldest View anthology. I will link it down below because I think all of you should go watch it immediately. Maybe after this video. Actually, I don't know. Watch it first and then come back. It's going to take an hour and 20 minutes of your life maximum. And that's if you watch all 20 minutes of the last section, which I would suggest doing because it's really good. Kane Parsons, you might be familiar with him. He is a YouTuber on here. I don't even know if that is a word that you can use to describe him. He's a director. He creates movies on YouTube essentially, and now he creates movies in real life. He directed, produced, wrote the score for, probably wrote part of the script for the new Backrooms movie, because Backrooms was one of his first anthologies. The one that he released more recently, within the last episode came out last year, was The Oldest View. It is supposed to be horror, and it is scary, so if you're a little jumpy, maybe just watch it with the lights on while you're doing something else. But it's not you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? The thing about Kane Parsons is that his work is never meaningless, and there's a time and place for drivel. You can turn on Love Island and there's not a lot behind it, if we're being real with ourselves. Or like The Summer I Turned Pretty. It's a cute is a hard word to say for it. It's fun and it's enjoyable, and you can watch it and you can walk away from it being like, oh my gosh, that was insane. But there's not really like a meaning behind it other than like looking into the life of a girl that is fictionalized. That's not to put any of that down. I watch all that. I'm just meaning to say, when Kane Parsons makes something, there's like a meaning and there's a purpose behind it. It is always driven by a force. And the force behind The Oldest View is memory and humanity and like the remnants of humanity. I'll give you just a brief rundown in case you've never seen it or in case it's been a while since you've seen it. Essentially, there is a boy named Wyatt. He's a college student, and he has found a hole in the ground in the woods. And inside the hole, he finds a staircase. And he follows the staircase down. It's a long, long staircase. And then he goes through a door. It's like an urban explorer type vibe. I had a friend in college who did urban exploring, and I was like, Matthew, you're gonna die. Yeah, you're gonna either get sepsis or you're gonna get killed by a ghost. I don't know. Or like fall in a hole and die. Anecdote aside, Wyatt goes down this staircase and he goes through this door and he ends up in a mall. Right, okay. A massive mall that has been abandoned and is underground. An underground abandoned mall. And it's weird. And he's exploring and he's looking around. And he runs into a massive, like giant, like paper, cardboard giant that rolls. They call it the rolling giant. That's its name, the rolling giant. And because there's horror elements to it, he's chased around by this giant and all this stuff happens and it's spooky and it's scary. But then as you continue watching the anthology, you kind of get the giant's backstory. And in real life, like in actual real life. So this mall in Texas was called the Valley View Center, and it had a art installation by Kevin Obergon, one of the two, of this massive giant form of a man, a botanist. He was a 19th, 20th century botanist by the name of Julian Roverchon. That's his name. And so Kevin Obergon, not to be confused with Julian Roverchon, they're two different guys. Kevin makes a massive rolling giant version of Julian. And he's got like this big beard to mimic Julian's beard. He's got like massive hands and they're just flowers because Julian's a botanist. And this was one of his art installations in the Valley View Center. The giant just kind of stayed there at the mall. In real life, he was just there. And then when the mall eventually shut down, the giant still just remained in the mall. And then in 2023, the whole entire mall was finally demolished. And there's nothing left, not even the giant. He's gone. So the premise of this story that our friend Kane Parsons, or Kane Pixels, as his pseudonym on YouTube, has created is that mall is now underground and it's become this sort of liminal space and there are no people left, but that giant is still there. The giant version of Julian Roverchon. Okay. So what does this have to do with the idea of humanity and memory? Well, I was scrolling through the comments of the last episode, because the last episode is 20 minutes of Kane Parsons walking around the demolished site of the Valley View Center, and it is just the foundations, like it's solely the foundations, and it's him walking around and then like showing where in his previous, like, it throughout the rest of the anthology, like, where that place was. So, like, you see the ground and it's got the specific, like, tile work, and then he'll show you, as his character Wyatt was running through the CGI animated version that he created, like, where that was, if that makes sense. And in the comments of this, it's just people talking about their memories at Valley View Center, or their memories of the Rolling Giant, or just their memories of another place that they've been, and how even if something is gone, there are memories that remain of it, if this makes sense. I think that is sort of the point. So I watched afterwards, Wendigoon, he did like an analysis of the series, because Wendigoon loves Kane Parsons. Wendigoon, like, recognizes game when game is present, you know? And Kane Parsons' game is present. He does an analysis of it, and he talks about how Wyatt's journey through the mall and with the Rolling Giant, and then out of the mall with the Rolling Giant, is this kind of idea of memory lost and then memory regained, because this mall and this giant were forgotten by the general public until Kane Parsons made this video series. Now there's a Wikipedia page for it. When I couldn't remember the name of the botanist, I just pulled up the Wikipedia page for the Rolling Giant, and there it is. So now not only, so we have, okay, bear with me, the mall that was demolished with the giant inside, gone to history, remembered by people, by individuals, and now immortalized in this anthology. But more than that, you also have Kevin, the artist. I'd never heard of Kevin before. Had you heard of Kevin before? But now Kevin is on a Wikipedia page. And I'm sure there are a lot of people in the world, if Kevin is still, with us, hi Kevin. But then also, there are people in the world who know who Kevin was or is. His family, his friends, other people who have seen his art before. Probably a smaller number than who knew the mall, because there were probably millions of people who had been to the mall, had memories in that mall. Fewer than that who knew Kevin, and yet Kevin is now immortalized in this Wikipedia page, in this anthology. And then, one step further, you have Julian Reverchon, I'm sure that's not how his last name is pronounced, okay? I'm sure it's French or something. Let me look it up. He was French. So I'm sure his name is not Reverchon. No one knows this 19th to 20th century botanist, Julian. At least unless you're a huge botany buff, maybe you do know him, and power to you. The point I'm just trying to drive home, I guess, here with this section is that there were people, obviously. There have been billions and billions of people on this earth before us, and now that we are here, and so many of them are never going to be remembered. That's the way it is. At the end of the 5th episode, there is a text that that Kane Parsons puts on the screen that says something along the lines of, modern humans have existed for 300,000 years, and recorded history makes up for 1.6% of that time. That is an abyssal number. And I don't know where he got that number from. He could be pulling it out of his booty hole. I would not know. But maybe, and I also don't know if that is an estimation based off of the writings we have, or if that is just the writings that we have. I don't know. I don't know anything about that number. We're always discovering more stuff, which is great. So that number could go up, but it's not going to go up very much. Maybe 2% if we're lucky. The point is, people existed, real people, And a lot of the time we only get to remember the big people. the presidents or the rulers or the great thinkers or the warriors, but only the really good ones. Sometimes, if they're lucky, the writers, the poets, Homer, Jane Austen, Alexander the Great, Cleopatra, the Henry VIII. These are people that you get to remember because their stories are recorded. And yet there are places and there are things and there are people like the Valley View Center and the Rolling Giant and Kane Parsons and Wendigoon and Julian and Kevin that aren't necessarily going to be written about, right, in history books. And that is something very personal to me. I don't know why. Just this idea of the other people who lived. We could talk about Cleopatra, Mark Antony, Julius Caesar, Augustus. We could talk about the Ides of March and World War II and Hitler and every single other political figure or Marie Antoinette that has ever existed until the cows come home. We could talk about them for forever, but what about the other people who lived, right? What about the barista at the coffee shop at the lower level of the Valley View Center? Like, what was her life? What was she doing? And if you're kind of getting a feel for how the rest of this episode is going to go, great. This is sort of a stream of consciousness type video. I have no script. The other videos might not seem like it, but I had a little bit of a script. This one, I just decided I wanted to talk about this, and so here I am sitting in front of you talking about it. Okay, so I think that's what I really wanted to say about The Oldest View. I would really suggest go watching it. It is beautiful, like truly beautiful, and worth it. I watched it yesterday and immediately knew I had to make this. And that's, I guess, another thing that I would like to say is the idea of inspiring one another to remember those who came before us. And putting the effort into remembering each other, immortalizing one another and ourselves. Not immortalizing in the sense of like deifying. I'm not talking about we are gods or anything like that, or we are divine. None of that. I'm just talking about the impact that we make on this earth that remains once we've gone. Tracking? Okay. We'll move on to our next segment now. So now what we're going to do is I am just going to show you something. This is one of my passions in life is collecting photographs of old people. And I don't mean like elderly people. I just mean like people who lived before, which is on theme. Photographs, but then also old postcards, letters, things of the sort. Now, there's this one thing that I have that I don't know where it is, but when I was in high school, way back in the day, I found in a library book a letter from a woman to her partner. And it was just in the pages of this library book. And I don't remember anything about it other than that. And it was written on like, those pads of paper that are like shaped like this. And it had pink trim around the edge. And it was just written in like blue ballpoint pen ink. This love letter to her partner. And that, I think, was the beginning of my fascination. But since then, I have collected photographs and book plates and just things of the sort. So I just want to walk you through some of these things just so you know that these people lived. And most of them, I don't know their names or where they're from, who they are, but I know that they lived, and you know that, and now you'll know that they lived. And that's really what this segment is going to be. And something I have to say is this. If you, in your family, have a family photo album and it gets passed to you or someone else in your family, don't put it in an antique store. Like, it's not going to take up that much space in your house. These people are your family, even if you never knew them. I don't know. There's just something so sad to me whenever I see them, like these photographs. Obviously, I'm going to buy them. I will buy them. But that's because their family gave it up, and that to me is very sad. Anyway, we'll start with this photograph that I'm looking at that I keep glancing over here at. It's this little picture. It came in this frame, and I liked this one because of like just the generations that you see there, you know? You have what I'm assuming is the grandmother here, and then perhaps 2 sisters, maybe, and then a daughter. And I just think it's so sweet. I also, as like a person who loves clothes and costuming, such a great image for, I'm assuming 50s, it's looking very 50s, like 50s clothing for multiple generations. Anyway, there's that one. And I just love the picture frame. Look at it. Isn't it so beautiful? Okay, there's that. Then we have this one. You can see I bought it from an antique store. And what I love about this one is based on this person in the corner here, I'm assuming that this is probably also 50s. And that these are just like, this is the story I've made. It could be false, it could be wrong, but they're at like a dinner party. This is her parents or someone's parents, and they've just decided to dress up. Look at how cute they are. His little hat, he reminds me of the grandpa in one of my favorite movies of all time, Atlantis. Look at him with his hat, and look at the grandma wearing little shorts and her oversized sweater and her silly little hat. Isn't that so sweet? This was like a moment in someone's life. And from the grin on this woman's face in the corner, from her smile, like you can tell they're having such a good time. Look at that. Ugh, I love it. Oh, I love this one. I love all of them. Now look at this. Now take a look at this. Look at this group. Look at this gang. Look at them. Another really, really wonderful, like, image for if you're into costuming at all or historical clothing. Just look at that. Look at that friend group. Me and my sister, we spent a long time like researching clothes to try to decide what year this might have been. And we decided it was probably the late 1910s, which, if you know, the late 1910s is when World War I started. So if you think about that and you think about all the men in this photograph who more than likely were sent to fight, you know, there's no time written on it, no date, no place. But like these men probably went and they probably fought in, you know, in whatever regard. I also think that this one particularly looks like Sam Claflin. So there's that. I don't know. It's just, I don't know, it's a lot to think about. Like, what happened after this picture, you know, was taken? Did these people, did they meet in school? Are they friends, or are they just like a cohort? I don't know. Well, they look very friendly. They're all kind of like, at least the women are sort of laying on top of each other like you have right in the middle. But I don't know. Where did they go? What did they do? Did they fight? Did they not fight? You know, did the women go and become nurses? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I love that one. That was one of my first ones that I got. This one is a new piece, and it's not a photograph, but it's a book plate from the front cover of someone's book. And what I love about this one is the girl's name written on it, just right there. Mary Elizabeth something Emerson. Mary Elizabeth Emerson, something like that. And, you know, judging from the picture, it looks like it's probably a child's book or a fairy tale of some sort. And so just thinking about the little girl who had this book and whose mother or sister or herself like wrote her, look at how beautiful that handwriting is, like wrote that intentionally. Isn't that sweet? I think that's sweet. And this one is one of my favorites. It's also very new, but it's so cute. And if you know anything about me and have watched any of my previous videos, you know how emotional I get about motherhood and about the relationship between a mother and her child. And I just like to show you this photograph. You might not be able to see it very well, but in the center you have a man and a woman. It's once again looking like early 1900s. So you have a man and a woman sitting on a picnic blanket, and in between them, if you can see, they have their son and their daughter just lying there, lying between them. And I just think that's the sweetest thing ever. And like the dad has his hand on like his little girl's leg, and the son is laying so close to his mother's lap. Like those were people. That was like Tom and Jenna, who lived down the block, you know, and their kids, William and Catherine. You know, those were people who lived, and this is, you know, this is all that's left of them. I mean, there might be more, but might be more photographs of them, and I don't know. And it makes me sad because his face is so distorted. Anyway. Now we move on to this little, those are all the ones that I have hanging on my wall. Now we're moving on to this box. And what's special to me about this box is my best friend made it for me. My best friend, her dad, he does woodwork as a hobby. So she and her dad made me this beautiful box. I mean, look at it. Look at that. Look at that. And now this thing exists, right? And maybe it doesn't have her name on it. I wish it had like her name on it and her dad's name on it, but it doesn't. But, you know, when I die and my family decides what to do with all of my items, they might not know where this box came from or who it came from or what it meant to me, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it was made by someone, and that someone was so dear to me, and this is a piece of her left, and it's a piece of her father left, it's a piece of her relationship with her father, my relationship with her, here, sitting before me. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, enough of that. So in this box, I keep my bottle cap collection, because I am, at heart, a nerd, if you couldn't tell, and Fallout was one of my favorite games, so I collect bottle caps, just in case. You never know. You never know what could happen. But what I also keep in here is my smaller photographs. And I'm going to show them all to you. I'm going to show you them. This is the first one. Isn't she so cute? And on the back, it has written in blue pen. I'll show you first, and then I'll read it to you. Isn't that so cute? It has written, "Me showing off my pretty moleskin red dress Ed bought me." Isn't that so darling? So there's this woman, we don't know her name because she didn't write it on her little photograph, showing off a dress a man named Ed bought for her. I'm assuming her husband, could be a brother, could be a father, for Christmas, because look, there's the Christmas tree right next to her, and she's just showing it off, and it's immortalized in this photograph. There is this nameless woman who had a man in her life named Ed. Maybe it was her son, I don't know. He bought her that dress, and it was important enough to her that she had a picture taken with it, wrote it down, printed it out. Yeah, I don't know, it's just so darling. And then this one has, yeah, it doesn't have anything written on it, but I just love this picture of this lady. Just look at her, embroidering out in the sticks, just having the time of her life. Look at that smile. Her glasses are so cute. Yeah, I just love this one. She's so real, you know, she's so human. I feel like a lot of these older photographs, you don't really see their faces, like, smiling, you know? I feel like it's a lot of mogging on us. Mostly because they have to hold that face for a while in some of the older photographs. But I like that one. Then we have this one. This one is really special. So I found this one in a picture frame. And on the bottom it says, "To my dream girl from Una." Or my dream girl who is Una. And I thought that was really cute. I was like, oh, it's a photograph of Una. And her partner has written on it. But on the back, you have a letter. Someone cut it up, which, hey, if you're going to put something in a photograph that has writing on the back, don't cut it up. You stupid. Anyway, that makes me really mad. But it's not a letter from her partner. It's a letter from her childhood friend, her dream girl. Isn't that so sweet? I mean, is that not how girls talk about each other now still? Like, yeah, that's my wife. Like, that's my girlfriend. Like, that's the love of my life. And it's their best friend or like their soulmate. But it's, you know, whatever. Anyway, this letter is written to her, to Una, from her friend before her wedding. It's just so sweet. And it's written in cursive, so it's really hard for me to read a lot of it. But, you know, it starts, "Dear Una, I think that of all of our old gang," in quotation marks, "you're the only one I really something to call a real friend. And you can always count me as such." And more stuff that it's really hard for me to read. "I certainly wish you a lot of success in something, but I think you'll need more the year after that." And it says, "Y'all." Aww. And the worst part about this one, the one thing that's most devastating, you have Una's face. I'm assuming it's Una. You have her name there, and you have her name there at the top. I'll show you. Right there, Una. But at the bottom, the name of whoever wrote this has been cut off. The last thing you get to read is "well wishes." Or maybe this is the picture of the person who sent it, and it's addressed to Una, like a memory of, like, this is what I look like, don't forget. And I don't know. We don't know. We won't ever know. Anyway, this one, like, fills me with so much melancholy. Like, so much joy. Anyway, there's that one. Then we have this cutie patootie. Look at her. Just sitting out in the grass on a little tricycle. Can you imagine? Just grandma sitting on a tricycle. I love that one. Serving. Absolutely serving these two. And this one does have writing on the back of it, but just take a moment. Just take a moment to look at them. Oh, look at them. And then on the back it says Carrie and then myself at the bottom. So I'm assuming that this woman is Carrie, and that's the sad thing about the people who make, like, the photo albums of their families, is they refer to themselves in the first person more often than not, so we don't get to know their name, you know? Anyway. And you are all gonna know why I'm showing you this one. Because look at the woman and her baby. Look at the woman and her baby. Also, serving absolute face. Look at her. Like, tell me that isn't, like, movie worthy. And on the back it says March 1945. Look at the little baby's face. Look at how carefully she holds it. And then look at her face. Absolutely serving. There's a baby out there. This is his mother. You're lucky. Like, I'm sorry. You got good genes. You lucked out. Oh, and then there's this one. I don't know, something about this one. The grave. Just the grave. And then, like, it says Memorial Day on the bottom. So they had gone to this grave of this man, William E. McCartney, from Minnesota, who died. It looks like 1954, but it could be 1944 on Memorial Day. And they went to memorialize him. And this is a tangent about graves. Graves and statues, I also have a lot of emotions about, as if you watched my Motherhood and Media on Mother Mary and you sat there and watched me cry about almost every single statue of Mother Mary, the art of statues is very important to me. and graves are very similar, especially when they start to decay. There's just something so human about it. And it's that idea of things being lost to time and memory. It just makes me very emotional. This guy doesn't make me emotional, and neither does the next one. I bought these ones from a antique store in Scotland. And there's another one that I'll show you. It's on my wall, so I'll have to go show you later. But look at him. Look at that chap. Look at that beard. Oh my gosh. Yeah. This is one of those ones that is like a book plate from I don't know if it's a book plate. That's not what it's called. This negative is reserved for future copies. So like this was one, it seemed like it was kept by the photograph company, whatever. Anyway, I just think he's dapper. And now this family, I could not leave them behind because holy serve, what are you talking? Just take a moment. Pause the video or just listen to me talk about them for a second. Look at how, like, there is not one person who's not absolutely eating this photograph up. Look at her. Look at this guy back here with the crossed arms. Okay, sir. And the mustache. Look at him lounging like that. Like, hello? These two guys? Oh, I'm obsessed. Holy beard, too. Look at their beards. Okay, I'm speechless. Love it. And I am obsessed with this one as well. I truly am. Look at her. Look at her. She's so cute. And what I love about this one is I feel like Victorian children in a lot of these photographs. Don't worry, these aren't those photographs where they take pictures of the children who are dead, okay? This is a living child. Those ones were more expensive, which is weird. Anyway, I just love how unkept she looks. Like, look, her hair tuft, like, she just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but her mom is like, we're taking you to get a photograph. And if that is not so human, like, that is the most human thing I've ever heard. And it's blurry because she probably moved. Look at her. Like, that's so precious. Oh my gosh. Okay, these next few, I have to make sure they're in order. So, a few years ago, I guess 2 years ago now, a year and a half maybe, my friend got married in Arizona. And me and my friends went to, after the wedding, we went to an antique store, and we found a whole bunch of old photographs. And I wanted to buy all of them. It was a whole family. That the one that was the gravestone was from that collection, and the mother or the grandmother sitting on the tricycle, I think, was from that collection as well. And I simply could not, like, leave them. Like, I just simply couldn't leave them. But I couldn't buy all of them. They were too expensive. So what I did is I found all of the ones that was the life of one person, and I bought those ones. So this is Ed. And I'm gonna be emotional about it because I just remembered the other woman with the red dress. Whoever gave that dress to her, her name was Ed. I can't confirm these are the same Ed. I'm sure there were 7 billion Eds in the early 1900s, because that's seeming like when this was like early mid 1900s. I'm just going to show you Ed's life from what I can piece together. This one is Ed. And how do I know it's Ed? It says on the back, Ed. Okay. Which one's Ed? Is he the little baby or is he the bigger baby? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But look at them. Look at them. Just brothers. Just 2 boys. That big old baby smile. Shut up about it. I hope it's not too blurry and that you can see it. So there's Ed 1. Oh, here's Ed 2 at 7.5 months old. And how do I know that? It says in the back. 7.5 months old. 17 pounds. 1 ounce. Look at him on his little tricycle thing. Isn't he so cute, Ed? Okay, that's Ed at 7.5 months old. Here's Ed at 8 months old with his teddy. How do I know it's Ed? It says on the back. 8 months old. 18 pounds. Look at him. Like, is that not the cutest? Is that not the most precious thing you've ever seen? Okay, now we're skipping ahead a few years. Here's Ed at about 6 years. How do I know that? That's what it says. Ed at about 6 years old. Look at him. There he be. By that water wheel. All grown up. Like, I feel like I'm watching my own son grow up. What are you talking about? Look at him. Now, this one doesn't have an age. So, but he looks about the same age or older than the last one. So, and this is giving to me first day of school. This is giving first day of school photograph. Look at him. Tell me he's not the most precious thing you've ever seen before. Okay. His little hat. His little hat. Look at it. Look at Ed and his little hat. Is he not the most precious thing? Okay, now we're jumping ahead in time again. And this is the one, I think when I found it and we realized that these were all the same Ed, I probably cried in the antique store. Our little boy all growed up. Our little boy all growed up. Graduating. I'm assuming high school. He looks like a high schooler. And now, what is it about that particular set of 6 photographs that is so emotional for me? Well, you can probably guess. I'm an emotional person. But what it really is this six photographs, maybe 7 photographs, and that spanned the entire first 18 years of his life. You know, if you looked back at your life and could pick 7 photographs from that time, like, so much would be missing, you know? So much would be missing of people who mattered to you and things that you did and moments that you were proud of. From the moment you were 7.5 months old to the time when you were 18 and graduating high school, how much you lived 18 years of life, so much life. And I don't know, there's an Ed out there, or there's a descendant of Ed out there. I don't know. It's just wild. It's just wild to me, and it's precious to me, and that's why I keep them, and that's why I keep them in this box that my best friend made for me, because it is the remnants of who we are. And I have also, I'll show you. Let's go on a quick journey. Hopefully I don't ruin my, worried about popping the headphones out. So if I do, I apologize. We're gonna go on a quick journey, and you're gonna see some messy parts of my room, and it's not just photographs, right? Ooh, all of my bones just cracked. It's not just photographs of people that are important, but artwork. So over here I have some art and a couple of things. Ignore them. This one is the one I want to talk about though. This one right here. I can't show you with my back camera because my back camera is broken. So look with my front camera. This one right here. How beautiful is that? That is a painting that I bought at a thrift store, our charity shop, when I was in Stonehaven, Scotland. Me and my friend, she came to visit me. We stayed right there in that hotel room. That one right there. And then we went to an antique store or a thrift shop, charity shop, and we found that photograph, that painting, and I bought it for £10. Someone painted that. You know? And then we have here, this one. I bought that also at a charity shop. Actually, let me tell you the better story. I bought that at a charity shop in a painting, in a picture frame. And it was done by someone, N. Stewart. That's what it says on there. I just wanted it because it reminded me a bit of home. I'm from the ocean side and I was feeling a little homesick. So I wanted something that was kind of like home, you know? And there was that. And I had it on in this picture frame on my desk for weeks, months before I hung it up. And I like to take things out of picture frames, if you couldn't tell, because I like them raw. I don't know, it just looks better to me. And when I did that, that's when I found this one. Just in there. And this is by a completely different person. By E.K. Stewart in 1987. So were they like partners? Were they married? Were they lovers? Were they siblings? I don't know. Was that one also made in 1987? I don't know. And this one, right here. One of my best friends, she drew that. We did a project. Well, actually, I do want to talk about that because it's kind of in the same vein of Kane Parsons bringing back to life the Rolling Giant and the Valley View Center. So there was a fresco in Rome that was of that. And I don't remember what it was, like who that is. I think it's Hippolyta. Bernie, correct me if I'm wrong. Hippolyta and the hippocampus, I think. My friend Bernie, she wanted to redo it in multiple different mediums. And I just love sketched art. And so I wanted that one. And because she was giving them away afterwards, after she did like 6 or 7 different versions of this fresco in different medium. And in doing so, she brought new life to an old painting or an old fresco that someone else did thousands of years ago. Is that not amazing? Is that not like beautiful? Am I crazy? And then I have this one, this little tiny painting. Isn't it so cute? Isn't it so cute? Oh, and here's one of the last old person or people photographs of old people I have. Look at that little guy. Look at him. Look at him. Just absolutely serving in his little sailor costume. Anyway, so my encouragement for you, someone in your family collects photographs of your family or your friends. Keep it. Write as much as you possibly can know about them and keep that with you, because that is so important. Those are people's lives, you know? And how beautiful is that we have this technology to be able to capture moments in our lives that will exist forever, you know, unless something horrible happens to them. But, you know, these photographs exist of these people and their art remains, even if you don't, like, I don't know who N. Stewart or E.K. Stewart is, but I have their art in my home and I've hung it on my wall above where I sleep. And it means so much to me. So I guess just make your art, dude. Make your art, put your name on it, put the date on it, take pictures. I mean, you also saw on my wall pictures of people I love, people in my life. I wish I had more. I'm horrible at taking pictures. I say all this and then I take no pictures, but that's because I'm living in the moment. I'm living in the moment, but those moments last forever, even if you can't remember them. You can't recall them, but they do exist still. My friend sent me a picture last night, like 10:30 at the nighttime, and it's the most ridiculous picture of me ever. And at first I was like, what is the context for this? But then I remembered how much fun I had that night and why I look the way I do. And I don't know, you know, without context, you know, you might look at this photograph and be like, that is weird. What is she doing? And in 100 years, they might look at it and go, okay, so this person's clinically insane. And that's fine. But I know the context, and that night was so much fun. It was my friend's birthday. I'll tell you the context so you have the memory of it too. It was my friend's birthday, and it was after school, so a lot of people had moved away. There weren't very many of us left living in this town. I was there because I was working at the university. She lived there. Her sister lived there. Another girl was still going to school, and then another one was living only a few hours away, so she came to visit. And what my friend wanted to do was dress up like we were going to a dance in middle school. That was like the theme. So we just kind of brought a bunch of clothes and piled them all in the middle. We got silly glasses and tiaras and funny clothes, and we really just dressed up like we were little girls going to the middle school dance. And it was so fun. So fun. Not a drop of alcohol in sight, if you could believe it. Anyway, moving on to the next segment. All right, we'll move on to the next segment before I start crying again. So I put a sweater on. Costume change. All right, what are we talking about next? Next, we're going to talk about my master's dissertation, which I do have right here. That's my diploma, my master's degree, just in case anyone was wondering. So I got my master's degree in ancient history. Technically, ancient cultures was the name of the program, but ancient history was the vibe. And it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. I moved to Scotland for a year and met some of the most incredible people ever. I already talked about one of them. She made that beautiful painting of Hippolyta and the hippocampus. And not painting. Well, she did some paintings, but the one I showed you was a drawing. It's like right there. Right there. Anyway, a little bit about me. I got my undergrad in geology. Another really great decision. I love natural history. I love learning about how the world was formed and how it came to be the way that it is, and rocks. I mean, you can't see it, but on the windowsill where the phone is sitting is just a bunch of rocks. I have so many rocks. But then when I wanted to go back to school and get another degree, what I really have always loved is history, human history, people. Part of that, I think, comes from being, I like to write on the side. It's my side gig, my side hustle that, I don't know if I'm ever doing anything with it, but it is a passion of mine, a deep passion of mine. And the thing that always drives me with that is the people I'm writing about. And that was something that always drew me in history classes, the people that we're speaking about. And not necessarily, like we were talking about earlier, the named people that we remember who did great, wonderful things, but the small people, the small folk that history has forgotten and that have no place in history books or great epics and tales. So when I was applying to master's programs to get a degree either in archaeology or history or whatever, I'm pretty sure it was the University of Glasgow, but I might be incorrect. That's the one that I ended up going to. They asked, like, in their application, like, why do you want to pursue this degree? And it felt really important for me to explain why I was veering away from geology into ancient history. And in my explanation, I wrote that it was because of how important to me it is that the little people are spoken about, and how rarely I feel like they are talked about. I don't know if you're ever in the history realm. We talk a lot about myth and gods and the rulers of the world. We talk about it so much, and that's great. That's good. We need to know those things, but I don't know. It was just really important to me that I wanted to study the lesser known people as much as I could. And now I wasn't in the decision-making room when they decided to accept my application, but I like to believe that some part of it was because of that answer. I don't know. I'm not unique in this way at all. There's a lot of historians who seek after the smaller people, the lesser known people, the people whose names we'll never know or whose bodies we'll never find or whatever. And maybe I'll talk a little bit about some of my favorite things. So we got to do handling sessions. We got to look at artifacts that were in the museums, and my favorite pieces were the ones that were wrong or had something on them. We had a special collections at one point where we went up to the library and we got to look at old books. And only one of them could be considered ancient, I suppose. Most of the other ones were 14th, 15th, 16th century. But one of these books was a massive book. I don't even remember if it was the Bible or something else. Beautiful illuminations, handwritten. This was a piece of art in and of itself, and it was sort of described to us as the kind of thing that you would have on a coffee table, as a reading, a light reading thing. But it was beautiful. It was handcrafted, obviously, and beautifully done. And one of my friends, Bernie, the one who made that beautiful thing, she saw on one of the pages a paw print. Like, undeniably, that was a print from someone's dog. And it was just there on this ancient piece of thing. I guess, again, not ancient, but this old, centuries old book. And right there, smack dab in the middle, was a paw print. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Another one of my favorite pieces was, I think it was a part of a vase or an amphora, and the writing on it had been printed backwards. How crazy, how insane. Or there have been pieces where you could see the thumbprint of the person who made it, or I don't know, just like the thumbprint, or they wrote their initial on it, or there are pieces of artifacts where they've written their grocery list on the inside of a shard. Just because, like, what else are they going to write on? They don't have access to paper. Anyway, those kinds of things. Or we had a lesson once on letters, and the kinds of letters that just get sent to and from people. There was, I don't know, it was just very, it was so surreal whenever I was in there and just looking at these things that people owned, and all the coins we got to look at. People used those. I mean, there are depictions of real people on those coins, like pictures of Cleopatra, pictures of Antony. But then also the idea that those coins were passed around from hand to hand to hand, the ones that are especially worn, how many people touched that? Anyway, all of that to say, when we got to my dissertation, I knew that I wanted to talk about that idea, and the idea of people as a whole, but then also as individuals. And because of my background in geology, I decided to look at ancient quarry sites. So I looked at 3 ancient quarry sites. I dug into the information on them. 2 in Egypt, 1 in Roman Phrygia. As much as I wrote that word down, I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry. But it's in modern day Turkey. And it was occupied by Rome at the time. But those 3 quarry sites, and the goal of my dissertation, I guess the thesis, was to look at how human interaction changed between the different sites, and if that had anything to do with the land and what they were bringing out of it. So the interaction between the natural and the human, and then this idea of what they took out of it, but then also what they left behind. And it was so beautiful just to see the kinds of things that people did leave behind in these spaces. So one of them was Wadi el-Hudi, which was a amethyst mine. They also mined other things, but it was mainly amethyst that they pulled out of there. And it's it's east of the Nile in the Aswan region. And technically it was in Nubia at the time that they were quarrying it, which also, has a whole discussion of politics and international relations between Egypt and Nubia, and the politics being, I want that, so I'm going to kill you and run you out of it so I can mine it. But whatever, none of my business. It happened thousands of years ago. But they left behind inscriptions was the main thing. It wasn't like a permanent quarry site in the sense that they didn't live there. No one lived there. They came and went. And so we don't have really much evidence of there's no graves. We have huts, small houses. We have some evidence of food, what they ate. But nothing grand, nothing major. But these inscriptions that we have were mainly from the higher ups at the place at Wadi el-Hudi, who were writing inscriptions of who they were, who their king was, and all this stuff. What they were doing there, how much amethyst they pulled out for the sake of their king, and just trying to implement themselves permanently in this space as people who lived there and who worked there and who mined all of this. And I could talk so much about Wadi el-Hudi specifically and the relationship between the goddess Hathor, who was like the main goddess that they venerated there, and her existence as a goddess associated with fertility and motherhood, and how the extraction of stone from the earth to the Egyptians was like motherhood. They praised her essentially, obviously, they didn't say this, but historians have kind of made a connection between, there's a lot of different quarry sites throughout ancient Egypt where they're gathering gemstones as opposed to like limestone or sandstone, like the gems, amethyst, carnelian, quartz of other kinds, gold, even turquoise. Typically at those places, Hathor is considered the mistress of amethyst, the mistress of turquoise, the mistress of carnelian. And some historians think that's because of her existence as a goddess of motherhood, a motherhood goddess, fertility goddess. Seeing the earth as the woman, the mother, and the ground as her womb, and the stones as her children, and they're like taking these things and in response praising her, thanking her. Anyway, that's a whole thing, all right? But just this idea of leaving behind parts of yourself, and you also have pictographs all throughout. Not as much in Wadi el-Hudi, but you have some, and you have just basic inscriptions like this guy, like just writing your name on it, or writing your dad's name on it. And the thing about ancient Egypt is not very many people were literate. About 1% of people knew how to write hieroglyphs because it was used mainly for religious texts, funerary places, anything that was like monumental. You know, the regular guy, Joe Schmo down the street, he's not writing in hieroglyphs. Like, he just doesn't know how. It's just not, it wasn't something that was taught. It was mostly oral, other than these specific instances. So you're not really going to have, you know, I'm going to say Joe Schmo again. You're not going to have Joe Schmo working at Wadi el-Hudi writing I was here, or, you know, Joe was here, because he doesn't know how. But you have pieces of the bones of the animal that he ate. You have the hut where he laid his head and he slept. You have evidence from the you know, administrator above him that he was there, because he wrote about all the different people who had come. And I think the second place that I want to talk about is this place called Gebel el-Silsila. That's what it's called now. It's the Roman name for it, or the more modern Romanized name of this place. And originally it was called Keni, or Kenu. Depends on what inscription you're looking at. This was mainly a limestone quarry, and they used this limestone to build a lot of places, a lot of things and structures in Luxor and in Karnak. Sphinxes were built in Keni. There was a workshop there. Ram head sphinxes as well. Stelae were built there. Obelisks were built there. And shrines were erected there, like the Speos of Horemheb is one of the most popular. And it's just a like a temple to the different deities. And there was a temple to Sobek, who was the crocodile god. Partially, people believe it's because that section of the Nile is very narrow, and the idea of praying to the crocodile god so that he might provide safe passage through this section, perhaps. They had mummified crocodiles that they found there, which I think is really cool. But more important to me, personally, two things. One, there are structures, permanent, like home structures. And alongside that, there are graves of people. And the people who got to be buried in tombs, like actual tombs, were higher up people. Administrators, officers, probably soldiers, things like that. And there are several graves that were children's graves. So their families lived here. And there was found a amulet of Hathor. We talked about her just recently. An amulet of Hathor found there. An amulet from the Amarna period. Doesn't really matter, but it's a amulet of Hathor, and she is a goddess of fertility, so perhaps in this camp, or it's not a camp, it's in this settlement, there's a whole settlement. There's a woman who's there with her husband, who's a quarryman or officer or a soldier protecting the quarry, and she's wearing this amulet of Hathor, maybe to, maybe be more fertile. Maybe she wants children. Maybe she wants protection for her children. Maybe she wants the land to be fertile. And I'm assuming it's a woman, but it could be a man who's wearing an amulet of Hathor who wants his wife to be fertile, to be fertile himself, to have fertility from the land so that they can get what they need from it. I don't know, like it's just the tiniest and it's probably like that big, maybe. Just the tiniest little thing. But it would have meant so much to them. And alongside the graves, there were, like the actual tombs, there were just graves of people, likely quarrymen who died from heat exhaustion or perhaps hunger or an accident or sickness. And they didn't get buried in the tombs. They got buried just out on top of the rock. It's rock. There's not a lot of soft ground except for farther out, so they're not digging to bury them. They're laying them and then building stone, like, encasings over them, tombs. They have a word for that. Because I know that a lot of Nordic cairns, is that what they're called? When they just cover them in stones? Anyway. And one of those bodies that was found in one of those mini tombs was of a young boy. 16, 17, which to us is young. Obviously to them that's like a man, that's a grown man. But just the thought of that, of you spend your life working the earth and then you die somehow and you're returned to the earth. Isn't that like beautiful? It's like devastating, but it's beautiful. And then you have inscriptions. And Kenny was a place that was used from like the middle period of Egypt all the way through the Roman occupation. So you get to see like so many different varieties of language and like humanity. And it was used also when the Ottomans came. And so you have like Arabic inscriptions. You have game boards that were played in ancient Egypt and in Greece and in Rome and in the Ottoman Empire. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. But the inscriptions are so lovely. You get to see like, I am this guy, son of this guy, and this is the goddess I worship. Or I'm this guy, son of this guy, and this is the god I worship. I'm this guy, and this is why I'm doing it. And I mean, we see writing like that all over the place. Graffiti is like that. It is graffiti. And yeah, it's so important. It's important graffiti. It's just like a real hand carved that out. Anyway, I don't know. That's just so beautiful to me. And in addition to that, I want to talk about in recent years, there has been a project, the Gebel el-Silsila project. I don't know if it's Gebel or Gebel. Gebel el-Silsila sounds better than Gebel in my opinion. Anyway, the Gebel el-Silsila project was started by Maria Nilsson and John Ward. They are a married couple, both archaeologists, and they have since 2012 gone to Kenny to study it, to research it, to do everything they can to understand this place. And they were featured on one of the episodes of like a Disney Plus documentary on ancient Egypt. And I had watched that episode a long time ago when it had come out. So when I started researching Kenny and I was seeing things like the cryosphinxes, that's the sphinx with the ram's head, I was like, this seems familiar. That guy looks familiar. And I went back and I looked him up looked up that show on Disney Plus, and there he was, unburying a cryosphinx from Gebel el-Silsila. I was like, how the cookie crumbles, how the rock frog shoots your foot. Anyway, they spent, at this point, it's been 14 years since the project started, and other than perhaps COVID, they've spent every dig season at Kenny researching it, and so much research they've found. All of this stuff that I just talked about was mostly discovered by them. And there's so much more that I haven't even touched on, and it's a massive area. So they've been doing this for a long time, and they're married. I don't think any of their kids are over 12 years old, so all of their kids have been raised essentially at Kenny or talking about Kenny or whatever. And as I was researching this one day, I was looking at their Facebook, and to my absolute devastation, John Ward, 4 days before I had discovered it, had passed away because of cancer. And I don't know if I could begin to describe how hollowed out I had felt. I had spent weeks reading every piece of research that this couple had ever released about this place, seeing pictures of them together as a couple at this place, reading through their GoFundMe and watching videos about them and watching their the episodes that had been released on Disney Plus that had them in it, and feeling really connected to them. And then to read that he had died, I was just gutted. And I was sitting there in one of our study halls, I guess, I don't know, at school, and my friend was there, and we were working on our projects together, and I just I couldn't work on it anymore. It felt, and I had never even met him, and that's how intense it felt. And I can't imagine for her to have spent her whole life, or I guess the last 15 years of her life, with this man in this place. 15 years ago, I was 10 years old. What are you talking about? But, and all I could think of is, how do you go back to that place? All of her memories of that place are tied to him. How do you go back and continue research? But how do you not? How do you not go back? Because that was, other than you and your kids, that was his whole life. How do you not go back and keep researching it and learning about it? And something about that connection between that place and that family, it's just so intense, and knowing that people there also died and their families were there with them, and I don't know, it's just so profound, and I don't think I have the words to describe it. And so when I was writing my dissertation, I was limited on words because I am a horrible over speaker. Clearly, these videos are way too long, but I had to cut massive amounts of sections out because I was over my word count, but I had to include in there a piece of him, a piece of John Ward, and that he had passed away. As I was writing this dissertation, he passed. Anyway, sorry about all that. It's just so beautiful. It's so sad, but so beautiful, because that is humanity. That is life, where he poured himself into discovering things about these people, and not just the Spios of Horemheb, which is this beautiful thing that a king made when he wanted to be remembered, but the little guy who wanted to be remembered too, or the priest in the temple who wrapped the mummified crocodile or whatever. John Ward spent his life, a good part of his life, learning about those people, and he left pieces of himself there as well. Even if he's not buried there, he didn't He didn't leave inscriptions of himself because that would be insane. But just in researching it and all these articles that he's written, that he and his wife have written, like, they mean something. And in the same way that Kane Parsons learned about this mall and then decided to make this horror YouTube anthology and revitalize, brought life back to the mall and the Rolling Giant and Kevin and Julian. You know, John Ward and Maria Nilsson went to a place that had been buried beneath the earth, and there were people there who were buried there and found them again. I don't know, and wrote about them again so that we can learn about it. Is that not, like, amazing? I don't know. Anyway, I guess in conclusion, this is what I want to say. My conclusion is this. I don't even know what my conclusion is. My conclusion is this. Like, leave your mark on this world, right? In whatever way to you that seems fit. Make your YouTube videos. Do it. Who cares if the internet isn't around forever, and maybe someday there's a massive EMP and all of the internet is dead and gone forever and it never existed, because it does exist in memory, and maybe you'll make a YouTube video and someone will be touched by it or think about it and write about it in their journal, and in 7,000 years someone will find that journal and be like, what the heck is YouTube? But a piece of it will remain, you know? Go to the bathroom at your local gas station, write your name on the wall. I don't care, because when that local gas station is demolished and pieces of it remain in the earth, and in 7,000 years someone is digging through the earth and they find that little piece of tile that had part of your name on it, like, do you understand how important that is? Anyway, take pictures of your friends, write your names on the back of it, include your name on it, put the date on it. If you have a photo album of your family, keep it. If you don't, make one of your family and your friends and your pets, the people and the things that were important to you. Yeah, I think that's what I have to say. I don't know if I have anything else to say. Write your books, make your drawings. I don't care if you think it's bad. I don't care if you think it's good. I don't care if it lasts through time, because in 3,000 years there might be a girl working on a project and sees half of your beautiful fresco or your beautiful work and decides she wants to do several different medium versions of it in charcoal and pencil and paint and watercolor, and then her friend might decide that it was so beautiful she wanted to keep it and hang it on her wall. Like, just do it and keep art. And I don't know, like, yes, historians in the future are gonna remember things that were terrible and that were good, you know. People are gonna remember Martin Luther King Jr. He's gonna be remembered for forever. You know, people are gonna remember, for better or for worse, Donald Trump. People are gonna remember, you know, the Palestinian genocide. Those things will be written about, and as they should, because they should never happen. And we should be able to see those things that happen like, people in the future should be able to see those things that happen and hopefully stop doing them. But it is just as important for us to remember everybody else who lived. The little guy, Ed, you know, Ed, who was a baby, and then he grew up and he graduated high school. And no one, I don't know his last name, no one could remember him. It's possible whoever had those pictures of him gave him up. Don't do that, please. I beg of you. Okay, sorry, I'm crying again. If by any chance you recognize any people in any of those photographs I showed you, let me know. Or if you know who N.K. Stewart is, or the other Stuart from Scotland. I bought it at a charity shop in Glasgow. So if there's any chance you know any of them, or anyway, let me know. I would love to know. It is my dream to one day have like a museum of old photographs and paintings like that, and just like have some information about the people who existed in them, even if it's just a name or a date. Okay, no, I'm done about that. Okay, moral of the story: your life matters. It leaves an impact, whether you think it does or not. It does. I promise you it does. One of my favorite comments on the final episode of The Oldest View, the last episode, was a guy talking about how he worked at, I guess I'm assuming it's a guy, this person. They talked about how they worked at a GameStop-like store at the Old Valley Mall. Valley View Center in Dallas, Texas. And how he remembered the managers, and the managers were all college students. And he talked about how he got laid off because he had been sick and couldn't come to work for too long, and so they laid him off, and he came back a year later, and everyone was different. None of the same people worked there, and no one remembered him. But then he listed the names of the managers, all 4 of them. And do you think those 4 people spent the rest of their life knowing that this high schooler kid, would remember them forever? Like, the impact you have on people, you might not be able to see it, but it's real and it's there. And it matters. It's very important. And it's not just people now, but people in the future. I'm crying over people I don't even know. People who've been dead for centuries, okay? So, just know that I don't know. Yeah, if you want to know more about my dissertation, let me know. I worked really hard on it. I was reading it today, and there were so many mistakes I made. Holy moly. Anyway, I love you guys. I love my friends. I love my family. Let me just put that out there. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And I hope you have a good rest of your life. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful out there, okay? It's a beautiful day. I'm staring at the beautiful blue sky. It looks like the Toy Story sky. There's beautiful clouds. My cat is asleep on my bed for the first time ever. He's no longer annoying me. I have this little doll that my grandma made. My phone is propped up against a jar full of little tiny origami stars that my best friend made for me before I left. And a rock that my friend from school gave me when he heard I got into graduate school. And this little clay acorn my friend Bernie made for me. Along with this little clay frog that looks like a butt. You know? Do you understand? Do you get it? Have I made my point? I hope I have. And I hope... My sister and I went to the Loch Ness Museum. I see possibilities. I wanted to have the one that said, I see Nessie. But they ran out. Too many people see Nessie in the lake, and I didn't get to have one. Anyway. I love you guys. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good rest of your life. It's beautiful. Enjoy it. Even when it's really hard. I get it. It's hard. Trust me, I get it. But it is beautiful. And you mean something to everybody. Okay? Okay. I'll catch you in the next one.